Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. We are here today to talk about double standards. So it should be a fun episode today discussing what double standards are, why we even have double standards, and I'm just curious to get my co-host's feedback on what some of his thoughts are on these double standards. And we'll see. I don't know if we're going to come up with a solution how to handle double standards, but hopefully by us getting this out in the airwaves, some folks will be a little bit more aware of some of these double standards and maybe do them less or make some necessary adjustments for some of these double standards. So if you're looking for some ways to, be a little bit more self-aware and hopefully not, put anybody under some double standards, this is the episode for you. So I am joined by my good buddy and my co-host, Jared. What's going on, Jared?
Hi, Chad. As a man, I love double standards. And obviously, we're not going to solve anything here. There's not even a chance of that happening. Have we solved anything ever? You keep
Other
saying
than
that.
Untranslatables, no. You're right.
You seem hopeful, but I don't know what makes you think we'd solve that. That's all I wanted to say. I love double standards as a male. Double standards are great. And I don't see anything wrong with them at all. I don't know why. Double standards actually sort of a negative term, and I don't like that. I think it's giving it the wrong term. It should be more like standard. I think it should be
the standard or what?
Yeah, I think that should be the term, the standard.
The standard? Okay.
I forgot to ask you beforehand. Do you have any sort of something you want to read to me or something?
I want to talk to you about something because I came across this article online. I'm too old, Jared, to be on TikTok. Well, my older sister's on TikTok, so maybe I'm not too old. But anyways, I never got on the TikTok bandwagon. But there was a viral TikTok that I heard about the other day about this guy who was at Starbucks, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Jared. So imagine this. Let me paint the picture for you and the listeners, right? So You're in the drive-thru in Starbucks, and if we're in America, you're probably in your pickup truck or your SUV, and you're sitting there waiting to pick up your Starbucks, and then the cashier tells you, oh, by the way, the person in front of you in line actually paid for your drink. Would you like to pay for the person behind you? And apparently this person on TikTok, and their TikTok handle, Jared, is I'm Blessed 55, which I think is a pretty funny TikTok handle. They were like, no, I don't want to pay it forward because the person behind them, Jared, ordered $46 worth of Starbucks.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm just wondering, like I get the gesture, like, yes, it's kind to pay for somebody else's like drink or meal or whatever, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like there's so many better ways you could contribute your money. Like the people who were in line, they were going to pay anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not really making that big of an impact.
It's kind of like the people that like clap on an airplane or something. Like,
yes, dude.
Like it's the same crowd. Yeah, I mean, I've never experienced that. Granted, I don't go to Starbucks unless I'm on like a road trip or something. I don't have a problem with it per se, because it's not like they're deciding between like this or giving to the ASPCA commercials, the Arms of an Angel commercials on TV. But no, I don't think there's anything wrong with breaking that chain. Also, the person behind you's never gonna know. Like it's not like you're ruining their day.
That would be so funny, Jared. Can you imagine you pull up and then like the barista at Starbucks is like, sorry, sir, ma'am, you're gonna have to pay for yours because the person in front of you wasn't nice enough to pay it forward.
You know what I would be? I'd be like, no, actually, no, I'm not gonna pay for theirs. Thanks for my free drink. And also, now that I think of it, let them know that I'm not paying for them.
Right? Yeah,
that's how I want to pay it forward. Tell them to pay for their own expensive shit and stop getting all the... Dude, I went to Starbucks on my way home from Louisiana, and I just get black coffee or espresso, but I got black coffee this time. And I got the person's some wrong drink, and it was some sweet shit. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice, actually. But I
can't be drinking those foo-foo drinks, Jared.
The only thing I was concerned about, it was still a warm drink, which is good. The only thing I was concerned about was like I needed at least it. I didn't really have a problem with it being one of the, what do you call it? What did you call it?
A foo-foo drink?
I didn't have a problem with it being a foo-foo drink. I just needed at least a semblance of coffee and caffeine in there.
Sure.
And there was, so I'm like, all right, this is fine. I'll take this foo-foo drink. But then I thought someone is going to be very disappointed. It's a lot worse to go in my opinion, personally, I guess I should say, from just like a black coffee to like some sort of foo-foo coffee, which is still coffee-based, but, it's got some shit in it, which I would usually never get, but it's not like it tastes bad, I guess. It's just sugary.
Right.
Versus going from, I'm going to get some sugary shit to get in some black coffee.
That's true.
A way worse move.
That is true.
So, because it's like I'm getting like surprise dessert. The other person's getting like vegetables.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Sucks for them.
I could not believe that though. Like, also, who expects you to pay like 40? Like the fact that even the waitress asked, like, they probably have to. But I just find that so funny. Like, I can't imagine like pulling up to like a Starbucks and then being like, yeah, so we're doing a pay it forward, I guess. And the person behind you ordered like $50 worth of shit, and I'd be like, the fuck you think I'm paying it forward? I'm not paying anything forward.
I mean, I'm so emotionally dead. I don't even understand the enjoyment of being the first person to initiate the pay it forward.
Right.
How does that make you feel better? It's like, I don't know. And then I also need to look at the vehicle behind me, because if the vehicle behind me is like a 2021 Range Rover, no.
Right.
How about you pay it backwards?
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's like, no. Maybe it's just because maybe I live in a privileged area where you see a lot of those sort of cars going into the drive-thru, but I'm like, I've never really been in this. I don't understand it. I don't understand how that brings you any sort of joy or satisfaction emotionally, but I can also admit that I emotionally have not a lot going on internally. I'm working on that, and so they might be onto something. Maybe I should try it out, and that could jumpstart my emotional.
Are you
part of my
kind
brain.
of like the Grinch, Jared, where like you do that one thing and then your heart grows like up to a normal size or some shit?
Yeah, once I do something finally that is nice and brings great emotional great emotional feeling to me.
See how you're wired, Jared?
Yeah, my heart will grow 6 million times until it explodes and I die.
There you go.
Because in reality, that's what would have happened because that's what happened in The Grinch. His heart grew like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And I hope is exactly what happens to me. I die happy and on top, having fulfilled some sort of emotional request that I've been sending to my brain for years. So yeah, it's a fine way to go. I'm okay with that.
So one thing I wanted to talk to you about this though, Jared, is I wanted to talk about things that like I would much rather do instead of paying it forward. And the first one that came to my mind, Jared, was just tip the damn baristas more money. Like like I said earlier, like the person behind you is already, it's not like they rolled up to Starbucks and they're like, well, I really hope the person in front of me pays for my drink because I don't have enough money for it, right? So like right off the jump. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's your number one? Tip the burrito. That's good. They have those little things. It's probably, they don't really have tip jars though in the drive-thru, do they?
I don't know. I haven't been through a drive-thru in a while. I don't know.
Yeah. I did just the other day a couple weeks ago when I was driving home from Louisiana, but I didn't pay attention. I didn't pay it forward. I didn't pay attention to tip jars. I took my wrong coffee and left. My first one would be don't go to Starbucks. That would be my first way of paying it forward. I pay it forward to the community that I live in by not going to my local Starbucks and rather going to the Red Bar Cafe, Drifter.
Nice.
There's one in Royal Oak I like too.
Atomic Coffee?
Variety, yeah, that's a good one. Any variety of coffee shop, which is right across the street from a Starbucks, actually, Atomic Coffee. That's how I pay it forward, and that's how I get the emotional benefit of rather than paying it forward is by not going to Starbucks.
I like that though. Supporting your local businesses. I think that will obviously fill the pockets of somebody in your area instead of just some high up CEO at Starbucks, sitting in their, private jet, sipping their Cristal. I don't know. Is Cristal even a thing anymore, Jared? Maybe I'm going how outdated I am.
I think Cristal is still a thing.
I just remember when we were younger, like probably, I don't know, high school age or middle school where they had MTV Cribs and, all the big rappers always had a bottle of Cristal in their fridge.
Yeah, they sing about it all the time. Sipping on Chris. Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah, it's still a thing. I mean, rappers didn't. I don't think rappers might have popularized it in the 90s, but I think it's been around. Cristal has been around for a long, long time.
Right.
I don't think the success of Cristal was hinging on early 2000s hip hop.
Yeah, probably not. No, I don't think so.
Because I just
don't
looked it
think
up
so.
and it's been around since like 1876.
Whoa. Okay, it's been around for a while. For a hot
I
minute.
mean, yeah,
okay.
all this wine has been around. All these French wine
Right.
has been around.
That's
for,
true.
Not all of it, but a bunch of it's been around.
Well, they've got
forever.
the culture, Jared. It's just
Exactly.
exactly for sure.
It's a
Yeah, okay.
flagship.
Oh,
cuvée
yeah. There you go.
Of Champagne Louis, whatever, created in 1876.
Okay. Another
Sipping on
thing though
Chris
that I would
since
do as well, Jared.
1876.
Tip my barista. Number one, I like yours though as well. Shop locally instead of the big chains is a good one. Another thing though too that would bring me a lot more joy than paying it forward for some random stranger. Maybe I'm sounding a little selfish here, Jared, but I would much rather take like a friend out to dinner and like I would rather just spend money on somebody that I actually care about. You know what I mean?
When is the last time, Chad, you took a friend out for dinner?
Well, I didn't take them out for dinner, but it's these COVID times, Jared. I know you think I'm a little wild and crazy going on these dates, but basically I got takeout for a buddy of mine, for my buddy Shane. We got takeout and I paid for it. And it was actually, I think, didn't I pay for Indian food with you like a couple months ago?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. But if we do the cumulative math, come on, let's be honest.
Well, I've drank probably my weight in Indian food and topos from your place for sure.
Yeah, you did that one time. Sure. But yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Is that charity though? I mean, I guess none of this is charity. Why am I asking
Right.
charity? Yeah, that's the thing. That's why I guess I'm confused on it giving like some sort of emotional benefit to someone because you don't even get to see
Right.
the payoff.
Right. Exactly.
I need to see the
and
payoff. I'm a selfish person.
That's fair.
I need to watch. I need to look in your eyes and see that look of wow.
that
thank
one
you.
tear roll down
Yeah,
your
I
face.
need to
of
hear
joy.
the thank you.
Right.
I need to hear it clearly. I'm going to turn on the music before you say it. And I want you to enunciate.
What, In the Arms of the Angels again? Is that the music?
Yeah, I'm actually going to change to some what's a Sarah McLachlan.
Yep.
Like, hold on. Say it again. I didn't hear you. Thank you for this takeout Indian food. Well,
But
what did I
yeah.
get you specifically though? You have to say it specifically.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to be thanked exactly on the
Not just
mark.
for Indian food. That's so generic.
Right. But yeah, I don't get why the even like pay it forward thing became a thing. Like,
You
whose
have a problem
idea
with
was
it? I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, I guess it
I
does
would
sound
never
like I have a
partake in
problem
it.
with it. Right. Yeah, me either, really. I'll be honest, Jared. You want to talk about sheeple shit? I feel like paying it forward is kind of a sheeple thing to do.
I hate going to Starbucks. The only time I go to Starbucks is if I'm on a road trip, really.
Right.
Starbucks to me is falling into the here are the places I don't go to anymore.
Well, you don't even
Starbucks.
leave your house, really, Jared.
Yeah, that's true. Starbucks. I barely go to my driveway. That's starting to be off limits. In a couple days, I won't even leave my house anymore to go to the grocery store. Starbucks. No, I'm talking about like giant, like chain establishments.
Probably McDonald's. You don't strike me as a McDonald's guy.
No, but that's because it makes my last few times I went to it in Philly made me feel all weird on the inside. So no McDonald's. Subway is disgusting to me.
Yep.
Subway I would never never Subway. Hashtag never Subway.
Yeah, dude. Speaking of Subway, one of the guys I used to work with, his buddy was like a manager at Subway, and we were talking about Subway one day at work back at the pharmacy years ago. And he asked me, he's like, yeah, so what kind of sandwiches do you usually get? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I don't go very often, but occasionally I'll get a turkey. He's like, okay, avoid tuna at all costs. And I'm like, why? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, basically tuna it's barely even tuna. I don't even know how they can legally call it tuna. But he's like, it's basically just mayonnaise and like
Cardboard.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sawdust.
Right?
I don't know about the legality of what they can call what. I've heard that about tuna, but that's how I feel about all the meats. I probably haven't been to Subway since I don't know 2014 at the latest. That's probably the latest.
Okay. Damn,
so
back when we were still in college.
Yeah. Maybe
Okay.
slightly out of college, but still 2014. When I was going back and forth between Grand Rapids and Metro Detroit.
Okay. You know what's
Those
funny
are
about
three big
Subway,
ones
Jared?
right there.
Is when I was in China, I was walking with one of my coworkers one day downtown Jinan, and she saw Subway and she was like, "Oh, do you want to stop and go get a sandwich there?" Like thinking that, "Oh, this American must be so happy to see like
I'm
an
so
American."
nostalgic. I miss it.
Right? Yeah. And I was just like, "No, I'm good." And she was like, "Really? Like their sandwiches are really good." And I'm like, "Look,
Was she
if you've
paid
ever
by
been
Subway?
to right? Yeah, she gets a kickback
sure.
for every
Come
American." Exactly.
Also, Subway, even though I guess it's an American establishment, it is so global at this point.
Right.
It's like it's no more surprising for like it's just as common here in Ferndale, Michigan, as it is in like Dusseldorf, Germany, where I used to live. You know, like
Right.
it's that ubiquitous at this point.
For sure.
That's like seeing a McDonald's or a KFC and being like, I bet you've never seen one of these before. It's
Right,
like everyone in the
exactly.
world has seen these before.
Right. For sure. I will say though, Jared, if I'm in Asia, I'm going to KFC before I go to McDonald's. Like we
That's
talked
fair.
about it on the pod.
But there are KFCs on a different level over there in Asia.
Oh,
in
for
general.
sure. Like when I was in Bali, that was just so crazy. All the different like stuff that they had. They had that like chicken pizza thingy. I had that like a couple days in a row, Jared. It was so terrible for you, but so tasty.
But they also say that. Yeah, but I mean, I guess I don't know about Subway. Maybe I would go to Subway in a different country. Maybe there are Subways on a different level too.
It could be. Yeah,
Dude,
I don't know though. I don't know.
I don't know if this is my new camera or what, but I hate looking at myself. I feel like I've been yassified, and it really annoys the shit out of me.
Well, lucky for our listeners, Jared, they don't have to see your yassified face on YouTube. So
I had to go into my settings to be like, is my touch up my appearance on? And it's not. Here's if I turn it up all the way. Now I look super yassified.
there you go.
Look at me, dude.
What does that even mean to be yassified? Like I've heard the term before, Jared, but
The
I don't really
yassification.
get. Yeah, what does that mean?
That's where they like do the what my face looks like
glow
right
up?
now, Chad. Where they do like that sort of like face touch up or face tune
Right.
to like the nth degree, where
Okay.
it's just like where you don't even look like a human anymore. That's essentially what the yassification of someone is.
Okay.
And I feel kind of even though there's no touch up, which Zoom does, I feel very yassified when I look at myself.
There we go.
So yeah, that's a
Yas
popular
King.
term. I guess it doesn't. I wouldn't expect you to know the term yassification. It had a short stint. They don't really talk about being yassified that much anymore,
Okay.
but they did for like a couple of weeks,
That's
a couple
fair.
months ago.
That's fair. Well, Jared, I do want to do one quick little Chad story time, if that's all right with you, because
Chad.
because this is quite for any of our traveler listeners out there. This is kind of crazy, and I know you, Jared. You're a pretty critical guy. You're not an easy guy to please. So this is also for you to pay attention.
Tell that
Jared,
to
in
my
case
wife.
You you need to pay attention to this, Jared, in case you want to go to Thailand. Here's the headline, and this is from Vice.com. You probably don't have the drop ready, do you?
What drop?
The Chad story time. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Chad story time. Well, look at that. Why do I doubt you, Jared? I apologize. I should not
That's a
have
good
doubted
question.
you.
I don't know why you just jumped to the assumption I did not have it.
I guess I've gotten so used to us recording in person now. It's gotten me
Flipping
off
on
my
gator
game a
piss.
little bit. Exactly, Jared. Thank you. Anyways, so here we go. In Thailand, hotels are suing guests for leaving poor reviews. A woman is facing legal action for leaving a negative hotel review in the second case of an unsatisfied customer being sued by a resort in Thailand. In the case of one hotel, the customer isn't always right, as a resort in Thailand is taking legal action against a guest who left a negative review on a travel booking website. On December 19th, a guest named King expressed dissatisfaction with her deluxe room at the Ozone Hotel located near, I'm going to butcher this, located near Khao Yai National Park. Okay, it's not that bad. Given its close proximity to the capital of Bangkok, travelers regularly frequent the mountain park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that was also a filming location for Leonardo DiCaprio's movie, The Beach. In her Agoda review, which scored the hotel 6 out of 10, but has since been removed, King described the resort as being too expensive and falling short of expectations. King said, "The room did not look new as it was advertised. It was dirty and the hotel staff were unhelpful. I could not call reception from my room, so I had to," here we go, Jared, "so I had to walk down by myself. Night shift staffers were not so helpful, but some were welcoming. She was also not impressed by the forested mountain views. The room's view was just okay, she said, comparing it to other resorts in the vicinity. The resort initially posted a short apologetic response to King's review on Agoda, but management later seemed to have a change of heart when they served her with an official notice telling her to delete the review and publish a public apology in 5 Thai language newspapers for 7 days or pay a hefty compensation.
This was the legal decision?
Well, so
or that's what they were
this is what they're threatening her with. Exactly.
Okay.
She was told by the resort to delete the review comment immediately, or else she must pay the resort 50,000 Thai baht, which is about $1,500 per day in compensation, and 3 million Thai baht, which is about $90,000 for the damages. Her lawyer wrote, adding if she didn't pay, she'd face a criminal lawsuit. The case is now pending, and it's unclear whether King plans to comply with the demands. Isn't that wild though, Jared? Can you imagine? That seems like some American shit right there. Like, you post a negative review and then they sue you for it?
Did you say what the review score was?
6 out of 10. So it wasn't even that terrible.
They better
still above average.
I'm looking through the reviews on Agoda right now. They better call their lawyer and get active.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's the point of a review site if you can't?
Right. Yeah, if you're
That's sort of the
censoring
point.
all the reviews.
Although they kind of have the same, they're not. I don't know if there have been the same complaints, but there have been complaints about Yelp about like if you're Yelp
True.
Elite or whatever, if you pay for not Yelp Elite, that's reviewers, but if you pay for some sort of higher Yelp level as a business owner, you can get the bad reviews taken off of your Yelp just by
Interesting. Okay. Well, Jared, money does make the world go round.
Exactly. It's like, is there any sort of legal precedent where these reviews have to be, like where you have to show? I'm not talking about these people in Thailand. That seems ridiculous to me. But I mean, I guess there's no legal precedent that you're required to show certain reviews. You can take them down if you want. Why not? I'm a website. I can show whatever I want on this website. Suing seems ridiculous. You got to take the risk if you're gonna. And also, I mean, I'm looking at Agoda, and they have a pretty strong rating on Agoda, 8 out of 2, which is, I guess, that's all right. That's all right, 80%. That's like a what, 4 out of 5? Yeah, that's a 4 out of 5. That's okay.
Right.
On Google, they got a 3.9, which for some reason seems a lot worse than an 8.2, even though it's not that much different. I mean, 8.2 would be a 4.1. So, like, it's not that different, but it feels a lot worse to see a 3.9 than an 8.2.
Right. Speaking of precedent, though, Jared, so I mentioned there was one other case where this happened in Thailand. I found out some more information for you. So in 2020, there was another hotel on the Thai holiday island of, I'm sure I'll pronounce this wrong as well, Koh Chang threatened legal action against an American tourist named Wesley Barnes. Shout out to you, Wesley, I guess. But listen to this, Jared. Barnes had left repeated negative reviews about the hotel on TripAdvisor and other travel websites. But here's where I guess Wesley went too far, Jared. He included one hotel alluding to slavery occurring at the hotel. He was later arrested by the authorities following the defamation complaint and spent a weekend in jail. Charges against Barnes, though, were eventually dismissed after Barnes issued a public apology in which he conceded that he had gotten carried away. I guess now, Jared, TripAdvisor even took an unusual step of posting a warning on its page for the hotel. This hotel or individuals associated with this hotel filed criminal charges against a TripAdvisor user in relation to the traveler writing and posting of online reviews. So I never would have thought, though, Jared, that like posting online reviews could get you put in jail. And I'll be honest with you, man, out of all the countries in the world, Thailand is probably not the place where I thought that this would be happening at.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't want to live in a country where I can't call them slave owners without fear of retribution. That's not a country I want to live in. I want to be able to freely call anyone I want potential slave owners. Not even potential, just slave owners. I love that. All right, listen. Maybe they're not slave owners. Maybe I misread the situation. Okay? Is that a crime? Is that a crime?
Little carried away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is so funny when like like Americans talk about like how their freedom of speech is getting like yanked away or whatever because they got fired for calling someone the N-word or something.
Right.
And it's like this is or like having to have a Vax card to go into certain places. It's like, this is like Nazi Germany. We're reverting back to, how do you guys not see this? They could all end up in jail with that sort of talk.
Right.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it too, Jared, when people complain about like vaccine passports, when it's like, well, we have all sorts of other types of passports. Let me get out my bank passport to pay for my food. Let me get out my driving passport when I get pulled over by the police. You know, like we have so many different things.
Or like, fine, I'll put on my pants when I go into this grocery store.
Right.
It's like there are rules already set in place that you abide by, but it's not about that. We all know that.
That's true.
About that.
You know what it's really about, Jared?
Racism.
I was going to say untranslatables.
Defiance.
I was going to say untranslatables because I think you know what time it is.
Well, I'm going to blame you for that because that was a terrible transition.
It was a terrible one, but I gave it my all, Jared. That's all I can do here.
I thought we were onto something. I thought we were on the same page. I thought it was all about racism, and you're going to go into some sort of Malcolm X-esque rant about what's wrong with white people today. I was excited.
That's another episode.
Now we're
Jared.
on the same page.
That's another episode.
348 episodes in. We're still not on the same page. Good to know. I thought we finished each other's sandwiches. Clearly not.
Oh, that's hilarious. Anyways, it's time for some untranslatables, some idioms, proverbs, sayings, axioms that don't always translate on a one-to-one basis into English.
You betcha.
And we are your tried and true untranslatable experts. And I'll get us started today, Jared. And I want to give a special shout out to my roommate Mo, because he has provided me with all of my untranslatables, Jared. I didn't even need to open up my laptop. It was beautiful. So my first one for
Chad
you
is a real big researcher, but now he doesn't do anything. And also now apparently he's best friends with his roommates.
He's a cool dude.
Such
I
an
like
interesting
him. Since we were talking about Thailand, Jared, I'll start us off with a Thai untranslatable today.
Did he live in Thailand or something?
He did. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Speaks fluent Thai and fluent Arabic and English as well.
Interesting combo.
Yep.
Are there any relation between Thai and Arabic?
I don't know, but I can ask.
All right, yeah, please get back to me.
My first one for you is Thai, and it is shakwao, which means flying a kite.
That's another good get lost term. Go fly a kite.
Go fly a kite.
Yeah.
That's not what this one means in this case.
Is that to brainstorm, to have lofty ideas, to be a big thinker?
So this one, Jared, this one's actually kind of a dirty one. And it was funny when I had asked my roommate if he had any untranslatables. He was like, "What do you guys talk about? Like, can
fly
you
a
use
kite? Is that like would our untranslatable in the United States maybe be? I don't even want to say it. Is it have anything to do with cunnilingus?
No, but you're in the right direction.
I don't know.
It's
what is your
sexual.
Gross roommate? What is your gross roommate? I don't know. Rim jobs.
Not that intense. Think about this,
Double
Jared.
penetration.
Can you? No, you're going way off the deep end here, Jared. It's not that dirty. What?
Bukkake.
Yeah. Once again, no.
Trying to reel it back. Is that not really
what? Yes, that's a great way to reel it back.
Gangbang.
What is
going to fly a kite?
Think about this, Jared. Think about
one win.
It's flying a kite. It's not flying 6 kites. So if it's flying a kite, can you fly a kite? Do you need someone else with you to fly a kite, Jared?
Oh, is it to enjoy pleasure oneself personally?
That's exactly what it means.
All right.
Yeah.
How about we've gotten enough untranslatables from Mo for now.
Well. So it was funny though because to
fly a kite. Because that's a solo activity.
I guess. I'm not sure, but the funny thing is he was an English teacher in Thailand, and he was telling me that some of the textbooks would have the example sentence, Jack flies a kite, right? And apparently the students would all kind of laugh. Exactly. And so, yeah, but I just thought that was hilarious. I couldn't believe it. So there you go. If someone in Thailand says, are you flying a kite?
Right there.
Right. What do you got for me today, Jared?
My first untranslatable is Georgian and not
Southern Georgian.
Yeah, not that Georgian, but the country. And it's Tvalis Motqueba, to lie to your eyes. I'm
is
lying
that
to my eyes.
to lie to your eyes? Is that like? That's like to, like do like
No.
deceive yourself? No.
No. Well, you are deceiving yourself. This is a natural biological action that everyone has to do. Yet, sometimes you have to lie to your eyes to do it at a certain time of the day.
Is that to take a dump?
Why? How are you lying to your eyes in order to take a dump, Chad?
Never mind. That makes no sense. But something to eat. I'm trying to think something.
Eyes. What do you do with your eyes at a certain time of day? Yet, if you want to do it at another time of day, you might say, "I'm going to lie to my eyes." Lying as in not telling the truth.
Right. Can you give me like an example?
At nighttime, you don't have to lie to your eyes to do this. But
don't have to lie to your eyes.
But at 2 p.m, you might have to lie to your eyes in order to achieve this.
To go to sleep?
What would you call it if you're doing it at 2 p.m, Chad?
Take a nap.
There we go.
Oh, I like that. Okay. Take a nap. You're going to lie to your eyes.
Lie to your eyes a little bit to sleep in the middle of the day.
Okay.
Hey, it's time to go to sleep even though it's bright out.
Okay. That kind of
I tried to lie to my eyes today, and I lied in bed for like 20 minutes and got up and never fell asleep. I'm like, all right, my eyes aren't believing it. All right, back to work.
That's fair. That's kind of like when people are like, no, I wasn't sleeping. I was just resting my eyes.
Yeah. Have you ever had tired? I guess I've had tired eyes. No, I haven't. What am I talking about? I was going to say, have you ever had tired eyes? I feel like actually I have as a glasses wearer, to be fair. I feel like, but the solution wouldn't be to close my eyes.
What's the solution? Pop in some eye drops or something?
No, that's your solution to everything is eye drops. The solution is, for me, is to either not wear glasses or wear a different pair.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
I have a certain pair that not these ones. I have a certain pair that seems to like wear on my eyes more, I feel like. And this is after years of wearing them both and being like, wait a second.
Right. Okay.
I feel like I need to have the urge to take naps more when I wear these other glasses.
That makes sense. You got to lie to your eyes more
It doesn't
often.
make sense, Chad. It's wild theories that I have in my head. Don't validate these wild theories.
Fair enough. All right. Well,
Don't
speaking of
me, Chad. How dare you?
Just trying to be your friend here, Jared. Speaking of eyes, though, Jared, my next one for you is Arabic, and it is min ayuni, which means from my eyes.
Is that like watching someone else masturbate or something?
Man, you just took this down that road, and you're just
I took
staying
it down
on
that road.
aren't
The
you?
first one was masturbate. You got these all from the same person. I don't know how this is on
This
me.
one is not a dirty one at all, Jared. This is actually, first of all, this one's a very common one. You could say this to a child, to your grandmother, to your brother, your cousin, your sister, your friend, your teacher.
I've been listening to a lot of Loveline recently. There are a lot of sick people out there, Chad. Anyway, can you give me the literal again?
From my eyes.
Oh, is that just like I'm impressed, or like very good, or like you're very like loving,
You're getting warmer.
Would you look at that? I can't
not quite.
believe it.
Let me
I'm so happy. I'm so joyous.
Let me give you an example, Jared.
I couldn't have produced something better myself.
Not quite. Let me give you an example. So say you know what, Chad? My fancy EV car is not working right now. Would you mind?
Sounds like something I'd say.
It does. Would you mind giving me a lift to wherever? And I go, you know what, Jared? No problem. From my eyes.
Oh, it's no big deal. I'm happy to help. My pleasure.
There, you got it. There you
Just
go.
to be
My pleasure.
clear, I don't own a fancy. It's not a fancy car. It was like $17,000. I just don't. I would never say such a thing. It's not even fancy. Where did you get fancy from? It's fancy, I guess, according to Chad, that just got stranded on the side of the road. I guess in the sense that it will definitely get you from point A to point B. That's a luxury. So yeah, no, I have a high luxury. I have an ultra luxury mobile on par with Rolls Royces.
Exactly. You got any more untranslatables for us?
I guess so. I cannot believe we're. I got yeah. French Canadian is what this one is. Avoir de front tout le tour de la tête. De la tête.
Is au revoir, is that to have or is that goodbye?
No. Yes.
Neither of them.
Yes. Sorry. I didn't mean to say no. Yes and no is what I meant to say.
Right.
I got thrown off when he said goodbye. It was yes, but then he said goodbye, and I was like, "Wait, no." Yeah, I could see how you could au revoir. If I had a good accent, which I don't, you would be able to tell the difference between au revoir and au revoir. But you're right.
Sure.
Yes, it's half. The first one. Okay. I said no because you said the second one, and that's where my brain went to as I responded. Yes. And no.
Okay,
to have a forehead, and tete is another word I would have known personally. I remember that from my old days.
Is that like the hat or something? No.
Close. No, but close.
Okay.
It's head.
Oh, okay. To have a head, something?
No, to have a forehead all around your head.
Okay. Because
it says to have the front all around the head.
Okay. Is that like to be smart? Like he got a big head. Like I'm just picturing Jimmy Neutron for some reason.
People use that term that you just said to explain this untranslatable, but not in a positive term. Not in a positive way.
Okay.
Necessarily.
Oh. Is it like, well, I feel like my grandma would say something like this.
Yeah,
like
she
too
would.
big for your britches?
Oh, stick with the word. You could use the same. You could even use the same word that's used the first time, and I could imagine a grandma saying this.
Okay.
Are you being smart with me?
Oh,
I guess I kind of gave it away. That's it. That's kind of it. It's
or
like
smart aleck, isn't that the term?
Yeah, it's like sarcastic to the point of rude.
Okay,
is what
I like
it is.
That's
you being
funny.
Smart with me, boy.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if I got the boy part, but I definitely got the you being smart with me.
Okay. Well, Jared, my last one for you today is also Arabic. Once again, shout out to my roommate Mo here, and this is al-hadida, which means I'm on iron.
And we're done with the sexual ones because
this is not dirty, not sexual. No.
All right. I'm on iron. Mm-hmm. I have a thought that I must pursue. A brain blast,
no brain blast
might say.
No.
I'm on iron. I'm very focused. I'm very
So I wouldn't view iron in this case as like a working hard type of thing. I would view this as more like iron is like the only iron's like the only thing you have left. So what would we say?
Oh, it's like someone's last resort?
It's more specific about something.
Oh, my last nerve.
Nope. This is something that
I'm
you and
out
I
of resources. I got nothing, no options left.
If you're
my
out of
final
resources,
options.
what's a slang term to say you're out of resources, especially financial resources?
I'm broke.
There we go. Yeah, it just means you're broke.
What's the literal again?
I'm on iron.
I'm on iron means to be broke. Interesting.
Yep.
All right. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that one, but untranslatables don't always have to make sense.
That's true. That's the beauty of them, honestly. So, yeah. Well, Jared, shall we talk about double standards, or as you like to call them, standards?
Yeah, ideally. I guess I only say that because, I grew up with a sister, and I feel like I often benefited from such double standards as the boy,
right?
But then two, the younger one too.
Oh, for sure.
So it's like my parents care a little less the second time. I'm like, all right, the kid's not gonna die. Go ahead, go.
Isn't it crazy how that works when like people have kids? It's like the first kid always like has these strict rules, and then as they get younger, just the parents are like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, you had an interesting combo though. Because your dad was like, probably was in that like the kid's fine state, but your mom was like, this is my precious boy. You had a mix of both.
Yeah. But you are right though. I mean, there's a lot of double standards that do come from age, from gender, appearance. I think is another thing that has a relation with double standards. Like for example, if you're a good-looking individual. Like, especially if you're like a good-looking guy, right, and you flirt with a girl or you hit on a girl, right, if she finds you attractive, then it's fine. But if you're like not so attractive, she's going to call you creepy.
Sure, I guess so. I don't know. Maybe that's your experience, Chad. When you first mentioned appearance, I thought you were going to go to the more obvious one, which is like race or something like that.
Well, that's
double
a big one
standards
too.
Regarding race, because that's what I thought of. I don't. That's such a basic beta bitch thing to say. What you just said, by the way, just so you know. Only someone that gets those responses would say such a foolish thing, because I disagree wholehearedly. I don't think that's the case at all. No. First of all, we're living in the age of the dad bod, which seems like a place where you should thrive. But apparently, no.
Well, thank you, sir.
I don't know why I'm insulting you so hard all of a sudden.
It's okay, Jared. I've gotten used to it over the years.
I don't know. Listen, as you mentioned, I'm locked in my house. You got
to take it out on somebody, Jared.
Exactly. Listen, Chad, I need this. No, it's not personal, and allow me to just hurl insults at you like any good friend would allow. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, that's not where my brain first went when you mentioned appearance. I was like, yeah, for sure. Then you're like, yeah, but like a hot chick, and I was like, huh, or a hot dude. I was like, and also I think maybe I also didn't go there, not just because of the more obvious to me personally was the race one, but I think
right
when you're talking about like someone's appearance and that dictating the response from the person, I get where you're coming from, but also that's so subjective,
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, who are you talking about when you say that, and who is that person talking to, and what's the context? I feel like there's so many contextual aspects to that I feel like I get, not that I even get nervous to touch it, nervous in the sense that I'm nervous about getting quote unquote canceled, but I think I find this sort of whole idea of like how attractive you are, and that a little more foolish I think than you do.
Okay.
But
listen, let me give you another example, though.
Sure.
Another example of double standards would be like, I've seen this happen when I've been in Europe for sure, is, when you're like standing in line in a nightclub, they'll let like a bunch of attractive women in, and then if you have like some less attractive women, like they're like, no, you need to wait in line. And then like,
I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I have straight up seen that happen.
I've definitely seen many a times letting women in. Maybe I just haven't clocked the attractiveness as closely as you have. Maybe they've all been attractive, and there are some real, I don't know what the right term is, dogs? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, God.
Okay, Chad, what's the term? You're the one that keeps on breaking people up by attractive versus unattractive. I don't even enjoy this game that we're doing where you break people up like that. What do you call the ugly? You don't call them dogs? It's not dogs? I'm trying to get on board with your terminology.
I don't call them dogs. I would just say someone who's less attractive.
Okay. I haven't noticed the specific dog versus cat. I don't know what's the sexy animal.
That's a pretty. So I like how you went for sexy. I just thought dog and cat was a good example until you went for the sexy animal.
I haven't noticed the dog distinction in lines. Granted, I don't spend a lot of time in club.
Yeah, when was the last time you went to a bar or a club?
Probably when
Jared?
you and Don dragged me to one
in Prague. So in 2019, right? 2018.
I think that was 18. Yeah. I think that was legitimately the last time I went to a club. And I guess I didn't pay close attention to the ratio of dogs versus non-dogs that were being. Also, I've been watching a lot of Always Sunny recently. I think that's why that term is in my.
Surprised
vernacular.
You didn't go for bird in that case.
Yeah, but that's a specific person.
Right, D. Plus, I think in England, don't they call like attractive women birds?
Yeah, a bird.
My favorite one. I met this British dude in Berlin, and he was like, "No, you got to call him a tidy bird."
A tidy bird. All right, tidy bird is what you got to call. All right, tidy bird there.
All right, tidy bird.
Yeah. I watch a good amount of British people in my daily life, my weekly life, and part of it is because of the content that they put out. I'd say like 40-60 content they put out. Me just completely amazed with the untranslatables that come out of the mouths. Right, tidy bird is not even that's not even a ridiculous thing. Like, it's hilarious to us to say, but I don't think that's a ridiculous thing for a British person to say. Right, tidy. Anyway, yeah. So, it seems like one that's very hot in your mind is the idea of attractive versus unattractive. That's not one I've really experienced. Maybe that's because I've lived life in the unattractive lane, and I never dare touch foot in the attractive area, so I haven't even experienced that rejection, because I know my lane like a proper lad.
Proper dog?
Like a proper... Yes, dude. Oh, my God, I can't believe I missed that perfect line. You're right. I know my lane like a proper dog. I know where I belong. I stay in the kennel where I belong. But I mean, I can think of like not so many, but a number of examples of me and my sister just off the top of my head dating.
Let's hear them.
Dating. Like there was certainly more. It seemed like more intention on my parents' part to meet. And listen, some of it I understand in the sense of like risk levels for a woman versus a man in these situations. I mean, the risk level is higher for a woman, undoubtedly, but that causes double standards.
Sure.
And there was certainly more like we need to meet the person before you go out with this dude for my sister versus like, 4 dates in, I'm like, oh, by the way, this is blah 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 or whatever. It seems like my parents were a lot more lax when it came to the curfew. Not that it's like, let's say the curfew was 11. Not like I show up at like 6 a.m. or they're like, you're cool. But like, if I were to show up at like, get home at like 11:35 and I was, and they probably wouldn't, like it probably would be fine.
Right.
Granted though, I grew up in Michigan, like my sort of late teen years were in Michigan as a car owner. Not owner, my parents owned it, but like as a car driver. And the culture was so much different because my sister graduated from school in Germany. So she was like an 18-year-old in Germany. So no car, but like it's weird because she didn't have a car, but she had the same, if not more, no, I'm going to argue more, freedom with public transportation than I probably did with a car. Yeah. I might be able to go to more places, but she was able to do more things than I was. I had obviously as far as like a kid trying to get into trouble, I obviously had to factor in like driving under the influence.
Right.
Just the one, driving under the influence. Two, just the fact that there is a car that you have to be responsible for as a human being, rather than just getting off a train than being sort of free.
Sure.
And so it's sort of like freedom, but in different ways.
Well, and you left out one big factor as well. When your sister was in Germany at 18, she could legally drink.
That's true. That
makes a big difference too, man.
That's a big one.
But that's another big double standard as well. Like use of like drugs and alcohol. You know what I mean? Like I feel like if like a guy like drinks a lot, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like there's certainly some double standards as well for like men and women when it comes to like drinking alcohol. Cause like if a guy drinks and does something stupid, there's like, oh, he's just a party guy or a stupid drunk. But if a girl drinks and does something stupid, they might like call her names or whatever.
Let me ask you something. You seem to have the male and female dynamic really dialed in, Chad. So you're the right person to go to.
I'm not so sure about
that. I see this a lot on the dating apps. I've seen this forever. This is nothing new. It's and granted, I don't have a great perspective into what women are seeing from men's, or like I don't have a great idea of what men's dating apps looks like. But every now and again, and not uncommon, but not super common, but not uncommon by any means, is the person being like, I can out blah 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 you, whether that be drinking or smoking weed or whatever the kids are into these days. I can outdo that of you. It feels like something that really only works if like a woman is doing it. I don't know. Yeah. But also it feels like such an odd, like it's like I always wondered, is someone's are people is like a dude seeing this and having a conversation about like their weed smoking acumen or their alcohol drinking abilities, their shot drinking taking abilities, and then do they get together and then like compete?
I don't know.
Like casually compete? Is that like a sort of like almost a flirty thing to do? Is to get hammered? Foobar, as the kids used to, not the kids, as we used to call it back when we were kids. That used to be
Isn't
a
that
popular
like fucked
term.
Up beyond all recognition? Isn't that what it stands
I believe
for?
so. Yeah, that used to be
Foobar?
popular like in the early aughts.
I like more the ham.
Oh, hard as a motherfucker.
Going ham. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's
a good
the
one. I
hip
like
hop
that one.
term. Foobar is like the old school internet
Dude,
term.
we need to do an episode at some time about like slang for like being under the influence. That would be a fun one.
Oh, it's funny that you said that. I thought you were going to go, we should do one about might be a little more complicated, but like internet slang from when we were kids.
Oh,
and
that'd
like
be a fun
early
one.
AOL. You were
be
AOL
a fun
person, I
one.
imagine.
Oh yeah,
I
I
was
used. You mean AIM?
Oh yeah, sorry,
I was an AIM guy.
I was an MSN person because I lived in Germany at that
You
time.
would be an MSN person.
No, it's
Jared.
because I
That
lived in
doesn't surprise me.
Germany.
Right.
I mean, I would have been an AIM person if I lived in
shit.
if I lived in the U.S. because I would have been the only person on MSN.
Right.
No, it's just because everyone in Hotmail.
Right.
MSN I think is what they call it. I think it was MSN Messenger. Hotmail was the email. But that's just what everyone used in Germany. That's the only reason I used it. My sister was an AIM person, and I certainly would have been if I was in Michigan in that late middle
Right.
school, early high school days before people started text messaging and stuff.
Right. I want to get back
think
to
it
what
would be
you
fun to do
mentioned,
an
though,
episode
Jared.
about internet slang and how that's changed over
That'd be
over
great.
time.
I wrote both those down.
Oh, good.
But I do want to get back to your comment about like the competitiveness of like. I agree with you, but I think here's
competitiveness.
Here's the thing though, Jared. You can call this toxic masculinity. Call me a misogynist, whatever.
That's
but
women kind of playing into toxic masculinity a little
exactly,
bit, isn't it?
Exactly. But here's the thing, and this is why I think you don't really see. Well, I don't know because I don't see men's dating profiles, but I would imagine most dudes don't do that because it goes kind of. It reminds me kind of along the lines of like if a guy were to like, for example. We had a girl that I went to high school with. She was like a state champion wrestler, right? And I remember talking to her, and she said like she had won a couple of matches because some guys just like were like, no, I'm not going to wrestle you because they're like, if I beat you, and here's the toxic masculinity coming in, Jared. If I beat you, I beat a girl, and it's like, well, I didn't even really quote unquote win, right? But then if I lose to
a girl.
So it's kind of a lose-lose situation.
No, it's not. Yeah. It's a lose-lose situation for society because that's all just toxic masculinity right there. For sure. I mean, that's classic toxic masculinity.
But once again, it would be weird, I think.
I guess because I don't find that as some sort of attraction, so a woman's ability to drink alcohol is not something I'm looking for. So it's like, I guess I just find it interesting that that's a selling point. Is that this person can get hammered,
right?
Better than me.
Got that,
I was like, if you can smoke more weed than me, or drink more alcohol than me, or do more cocaine or whatever you put in your Tinder profiles. I don't know if I've seen the cocaine one. I just
that'd be hilarious. Please screenshot that if you find it and send it to me.
I can snort more rails than you. I was like, you definitely can.
Right.
It's like, that's fine. Like, I don't know why. Like, why is that some sort of winning strategy? I guess I don't understand.
Here's another thing, though,
I'd also
Jared.
imagine it works. I bet you it works because it probably plays into a lot of toxic alcoholic masculinity.
It for sure works. But here's maybe another reason why it doesn't work the other way around. Think about it. If I post, I can outdrink you, right? To me, that gives off kind of creepy vibes. Like I'm trying to get you drunk so I can take advantage of you. You know what I mean? So maybe that's the difference there.
However much you drink, trust me, I will be coherent in drinking more than you. Yeah, that's a little scary for sure. Yeah. But that's I guess that's the double standard as a result of masculinity.
Sure.
Masculinity, the men and just like have caused women to like the need for women to be more like guarded and protective.
Well,
it's
here,
a double
Jared,
standard. Yeah, sure.
Here's another double standard for you that I think works actually against men is the double standard of violence. If you're a man and you hit a woman, you're, at least I would say most sensible people would obviously not approve of that. But a lot of times, like if you're a woman and you hit a man, it's just not looked at as seriously. Like I had a friend of mine who his girlfriend straight up abused him, like gave him black eyes.
And did he report her to the police?
No, because he didn't report her. And once again, Jared, you can call this toxic masculinity. But
I don't think that's I do agree there's a double standard there. And I don't even want to blame him because he's the victim. No, I'm not going to blame him. Because I wouldn't do that in the other way. But I understand what you're saying, where it's like the reason why he doesn't speak up is potentially different than the reason why a woman might not speak up. But I don't think it is different. Actually, I don't think it is different. I think it probably at the end of the day comes down to they won't believe me.
Right.
I think that at the end of, I think the thought process could be quite similar. But yeah, sure, I understand what you're saying. But I think it's so funny because I feel like all these sort of male-female ones you talk about are just a result of toxic masculinity.
Could be.
Okay. Another one I have that reminds me of when I was a kid I feel like I was allowed to watch rated whatever movies a lot earlier than my sister was.
Really?
I feel like there was no, and I think maybe it was a male-female thing, but I think it was more of an age thing. I think I think it just got to the point where my parents didn't care as much for the younger kid regarding the movie thing. But I definitely I feel like there was a lot less concern over like the idea of PG-13, maybe R. I probably wasn't watching like sex scenes in movies at 11, but like PG-13 seemed to be pretty like allowable past like 11. When it's like my sister, or she was probably had to be like 12 and 6 months, and then my parents would be like, all right, fine, we'll let you watch these PG-13 movies.
They just caved eventually. They're like, well,
yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
I wish my sister was here. Not that I don't actually at all. But like I wish an honest version of her, I should say, was here, because I'd be very interested, because that doesn't exist. An honest version that has good memory. That version of my sister does not exist.
We've talked about that before. For
I
sure.
wish that honest version of my sister with good memory existed. That was emotionally aware, because I'd be very interested to know. Get her perception of these things.
Right.
But speaking of double standards, emotional responses, Chad.
Yes.
This is one that you seem to struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And I seem to struggle with it, not in a double standard way, but on the opposite side. But you seem to struggle. You mentioned this to me the other day, and I was like, "What are you doing? Don't say this. Don't say this out loud. Don't say this to me. Don't say this to your therapist. Don't say this." And it was when you were talking about the idea of stoicism and how that's almost a virtue in a person.
Yeah.
And you relate it to me. And I feel like, especially when it comes to like women, I think that's a real double-edged sword, where it's like women are both seen as overly emotional if they do exhibit emotions, and then also dead inside. So for example, if you were to like attribute it to like a high-powered business person, and she's like an executive, and like maybe very like a hard like a given orders kind of person, there could certainly be a double standard there between like a male and female in that sort of same business strategy, where it's like this woman is cold versus this man is like a strong leader, for example.
Right.
So I think that's a big one, and I think that just all boils down to sort of the expectation and double standard of what emotions are allowable for different. We talk about genders, but this is not even just a gendered thing. You see it a lot with race too, where it's like in the black community, there's constant conversation about like not being able to, like in situations where you're being confronted by whether it be a police officer or even just even just a bystander, some Karen, confronting you for something. A black person doesn't have the luxury to fully emote themselves like maybe a white person would, because it might be seen as aggressive or just jump to this person is very angry, rather than this person has a valid reason for being angry, and their emotion is valid because this person is falsely accusing them of something. So it's like as soon as you turn into that angry black person, it validates the person's initial claim that might not have even been legitimate to begin with. But it's like now that they've gotten that response out of you, it's like, look at this person acting like this to me. Where it's kind of like with the that Central Park Karen with the dude that was bird watching and her dog wasn't on a leash, and he asked her to put the dog on a leash, which is the rule, and then she turned into the victim. And if he were lucky for him, I guess, happened to be like a super calm, non-confrontational dude, but he had the right to be angry because she. Right. But if he were to have acted aggressively, he would have. It would have that. I feel like it would have been. It's obvious how that could have gone in a completely different way, not in his favor. But he was so unconfront. He was like the perfect example of what non-confrontational is. That he could get that people were like, he had to be that agreeable for people to be on his side, and she had to be that unagreeable for people.
Sure.
Like it had to be the extremes for people not to argue about it, essentially. Because we see so many of these Karen-y sort of situations where it's like, well, I need to see the full video. Well, hold on. It's like she pulled out her gun in a Walmart parking lot. What are you talking about?
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, what do you mean you need to see the whole video? Yeah, I think just there. So I just in my attempt, because I know you love to prove that men are the victims, true victims in this society. Just in my hard attempt.
Oh, come on! I'm gonna try to prove
I
that.
know. I'm exaggerating. I know. In my hard attempt to try to get off the fact that men are the true victims in this society and women have it perfectly, I'm trying to highlight that no. Black people are the true victims in this society.
Well, Jared, speaking of race, another big example of a double standard is like when white people commit a crime and then like the pictures that they'll put on the news.
Oh, that's hilarious on Twitter. There's a bunch of jokes about that on Twitter where it's like a black man like shoplifts a 7-Eleven and it's a mugshot. White man kills his entire family and it's him like at a resort. Or it's like him on a jet ski with his family.
Right. That he killed. Right. Exactly.
Like at a vacation resort. They did it with that Michigan school shooter that just happened. In the early pictures were like him like in some sort of sweater vest at some sort of church function or something from like 5 years before. It still happens on a daily basis somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. That's a classic one. And they even do it with the innocent. So like if the black person were the victim, there's constantly like, oh yeah, but he got pulled over for having a taillight out, and they found a gram of weed in his car 10 years ago. So like, it's
so
like
he's a criminal.
Yeah. The cop beat him up, and he was and his family was in the car, and he was doing nothing illegal, but he is kind of a criminal. So like the cops are doing their job. And it's like you see that a lot in those situations where it's like it seems like when a black person is in that same situation where they're innocent, there's a lot of effort to go into their past to try to like, mention something that they did. Another one they did it with that dude. I hate to call him that dude. He was murdered by a police officer, but the guy
George Floyd?
No, the guy that was murdered in his own home by that female police officer because she went into the wrong home and thought there was an intruder in her apartment, but it was her neighbor's apartment, and he killed the guy. I can't remember his name. Right. But they tried so hard to like pull up things that happened in his past and sort of try and like a way to explain of how like this might have gone down when he was in his home by himself chilling and she went into his apartment, and so it's just like that is a very common one. That is a very common one for sure. Mm-hmm. Do we mention a super common one, which is among race, gender, all these sort of, which is sex?
What do you mean?
Perceptions of someone having sex.
Oh, for sure.
Even country-wise. I mean, we talk about all the time how U.S., we're known for being whores over here in the U.S., like on a national sort of culture basis. Right. We're known for being whores.
The Wild West, Jared.
Yeah. So I think that's got to be one of the biggest ones to me. Is just the idea of having sex, wanting to have sex, what it means to have sex once you've had sex, you could break that down among, I mean, we don't have to get into it, but countries, religions, race, gender, all of those, there's a slight different perception on what it means for that person that just had sex.
Right. Well, yeah, and even age, though, too, Jared, because think about it. If you're like 19 and 18, it's no big deal. But if you're 16 and 15, you know what I mean? Like,
or even the double standards, let's make it more legal and say the double standards of like... Sorry, I just had a weird thing happen in my headphones. The double standards of like someone that's 22 versus like dating or married to like a 68-year-old or something like that.
Right.
And what that means about the old person, and what that means about the young person, which varies whether or not the older person is the male or the female, what the race of the older person is, all these sorts of things.
Speaking of sex as well, Jared, I think there is a double standard a little bit to like the sexualization of bodies, right? So like, for example, like if you look at how like women are often portrayed in the media or like advertisements, usually like they're pretty, at least in the US, they're fairly scantily clad, right? Whereas like how a lot of men are portrayed, unless it's like a damn underwear commercial or something, you know, it's different. Or another good example of this as well, I guess this is more gender than necessarily sex, but even if you look at like cartoon or anime characters, right? Like the women's armor is like always like, you
accentuates the breast for some reason.
Exactly. But then again, though, too, I guess, I mean, if you look at like at least comic books or anime, like, well, maybe not so much, some anime, I guess, but more so American comic books. Also, the dudes are usually super jacked.
What comics are you reading, Chad?
Superman, Batman. When I was a kid, you didn't read those kind of things?
No, I read Calvin and Hobbes and Foxtrot.
Okay. Calvin and Hobbes is great.
No, I didn't read I didn't read anime. But yeah, they're jacked. But that's sort of like, yeah, but I don't know if that's a double standard or more just like the idealized. It's a standard for sure, but like what society considers the idealized version of male versus female.
Right.
Where male is that like sort of not like bodybuilder ripped, but like sort of that like thin ripped, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then women might be like that like large up top hourglass or what, I guess, like that.
Right.
But these are like these sort of idealized versions of people. Is that I guess the standard varies whether you're, whether you're male, female. Once again, racially, there's a lot of variation. Telling a woman that her ass is fat can garner a variety of responses, positive to negative.
Right.
Damn, girl, your ass is fat. That could garner a "aw" or a slap in the face.
Sure.
Or okay, interesting. I'll work on that. Thank you for the positive reinforcement. Yet I'll work on that. I don't know. So yeah, sure.
Here's an interesting one, Jared. When it comes to double standards, is body hair.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially like in a lot of Asian cultures, like in China, there's a lot of women in China who don't even shave their legs or their underarms. And it's just kind of viewed normal. Whereas over here, like I feel like if especially like if you're a kind of a hairy woman, like if you did that, people would be like, giving you weird looks, maybe even making comments and shit. Who knows? But like for me as a dude, like, and I'm a fairly hairy dude, like I've never felt the need really where it's like, okay, I need to shave my armpits or something,
Well, you do. I'm letting you know right now. You do need to shave your armpits.
That's only because I wear sleeveless exclusively at your place, Jared.
I think that's a popular cultural thing in the world in general, is the double standard of expectations of body hair and like expectations of nudity, what nudity means between male and female.
Sure. Good point.
And how a nipple is a nipple. Free the nipple. They're all the same thing.
You and I can walk around with our nips out on a beach and, no police are going to come. But, if one of our female friends does, there might be an issue there.
Is that true?
I don't think you can go topless on American beaches. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are.
Women can't?
I don't think so.
I think in New York, there's been some law in the past however many years saying that it's the same thing. But obviously, just because it's legally, which is what I asked, but just because it might be legally allowed, clearly there's still a cultural difference between a woman and man doing that.
Definitely, yeah. I think another double standard too, Jared, is,
what do you think, Chad?
Is like being kind to others. Like sometimes I think there are women out there, if they're kind to someone, like especially men will assume that they're like interested in them. Whereas like usually I think if a guy's nice to somebody, they don't tend to jump to that assumption. So I think that could be another double standard there.
Yeah. That sounds, yeah. Sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
You have any other double standards, Jared?
No. A double standard, by the way, for anyone that was curious, is a rule or principle which is unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups.
Yeah, Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, this manifests itself all over the place, right? I mean, also too, double standards. If you have a lot of money, for example, say, I was watching some Andrew Tate the other day, Jared, your favorite. I've been going down the Tate rabbit hole after watching that Your Mom's House episode. But anyways, he mentions how, he's able to drive a fast car and speed. And because he's got money, he can just pay off the cops. Whereas, if, you got Chad driving his, 2010 Silverado down the road speeding, if I get pulled over by the cops, it's not like they're going to.
He lives in Romania, just to be clear. I don't think that, as someone that has a fancy car, I don't think that flies in the United States.
I disagree with you. I think I would be willing to bet you, dude.
You think you can tear off a couple hundies to a police officer when you get pulled over? Maybe I'm a black person, so even the idea of it just seems like I'm getting myself into more problems than not if I compound more crimes on top of the already assumed crimes that the cop has on me. But that seems like a recipe for more disaster in the United States to me. Hey, have you hear those stories in the United States of people paying off cops?
Not necessarily paying off cops, but like if you are rich, wealthy, and influential, a lot of times if a cop pulls you over, they might just let you go.
Okay.
That's more so what I mean. And
I disagree with that premise. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Cobra Tate lives in Romania.
Okay.
The rules are a little different in Romania, Chad.
I mean, you're right about that. But once again, I think
you've never heard of countries like that where, there are so many countries like that. In that part of Europe, in Central South America and Africa, where in Middle East, where getting pulled over is really up to how much cash you have is
right.
Like where it's like whether you're going to get a ticket or not.
There's the double standard right there.
But
That's my
never
point.
heard that in the U.S. I've never heard that in the U.S.
I still, once again though, I stand by.
I would not even. I'm talking to a rich white person. I wouldn't. That got pulled over in the Ferrari 488 going 150 down the empty freeway in Montana. I would not recommend tearing off a couple hundies to a police officer and being like, "Listen, officer, I think we're good here," and then burning out away from the police officer, which is very viable in a lot of countries.
Right. Well, what I mean though, Jared, is once again, I think there's a shock value to having some of these high-end, super expensive cars. And that alone, I think, might make some police officers get curious and be like, who are you? Like, what the hell do you do to afford this fancy car? You know what I mean? Like,
I guess there's privilege, which is a double standard.
Exactly.
The double standard of money versus not money. Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Right.
That's fair.
Also, another big double standard, though, too, Jared, is like race and travel. Obviously, there are certain places where,
I experienced this in real time.
Right.
I was coming home from Austria, our study abroad, and my layover was at Charles de Gaulle in Paris. And
God, I hate that airport. But continue.
I hate most of the big European. Heathrow too is confusing as fuck.
Heathrow's terrible.
I mean, Charles de Gaulle's super confusing, but so is Heathrow. All those big European airplanes suck.
One in Amsterdam's not too bad, but that one's not as
too bad.
big.
Frankfurt's not too bad.
Right.
Really, Heathrow and Charles de Gaulle are the two that come to mind immediately that I hate.
Oh, for sure.
I don't want to. I'm making a sweeping generalization for no reason. It's really those two I hate. But anyway, I went through Paris on my way home from Austria, and that's the benefit of you also taking Lufthansa. Usually,
did they randomly search you, Jared?
Well, they randomly searched me, and they randomly searched. I believe he was Chaldean.
Okay.
Because he was American and going to Michigan. I believe he was Chaldean, and him and his sister were traveling together. I think he was about my age. Sister was probably, I don't know, a little bit younger. I was laughing at what he was saying, but a little bit more of a loudmouth than I would be. He's like, interesting, randomly searching the black guy in the Middle Eastern.
Right. And
then the people working at the gate were like, all right, we're going to have to separate you guys, me and him and his sister. Right. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And he was like, that's interesting. And then there's like a bunch of this old white dude. I was like, and he's like, interesting that this old white guy doesn't have to be randomly searched. And in my head, I'm like, I agreed with him 100%, but I would not say that.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out.
I I would not say that.
Right.
So the person's like, do we have to separate? Can we separate you guys? And I'm like, all right, first of all, I'm not in on this. Well,
Right.
We're not a terrorist organization, the three of
Right.
us, just so you know.
Right.
But anyway, they put me at the front of the line. They just like put me to stand like at the gate, at the gate thing.
Right.
But this is before they'd even started boarding people. Those Europeans, they always stand up like 20 minutes before anyone even says anything. So if they do it, I'm going to do it. And so, so the gate didn't even open yet, and they told me to stand at the front. And then they opened the gate, a couple minutes later to start boarding, and I just handed them my boarding pass and walked in. I was right there, and they just said it was open. And I went in and sat down, and they had stayed at the back, so I don't know what happened to them, but I was just like, I'm just going to go. And that was it. When I sat down, and that was the end of it. They never did some sort of extended search on my stuff, but it was certainly a double standard, because it did happen to be not only, there was the clear racial issue. It was the black guy and then the Middle Eastern looking people, but we're also like the youngest people in the line as well.
Right.
And so I do think, clearly race was probably the leader. I don't even think it was me, to be honest with you. I think I was there was probably some slight profiling with me too. But once I just walked onto the plane,
you were a young man traveling by yourself too, right?
Yes.
Because that already, drug smuggler right there,
but,
bro.
I don't know if they were more concerned with the Middle Eastern looking people, or this just highlights how sort of weak airport security is overall.
Right.
Because they did put me at the front of the line and I just walked in and that was the end of it. Did they mean to actually do a more extended search, or were they really just, I don't know. Did they just sort of forget once I just walked away?
Right.
I don't know. Right. But they certainly did pull out the Middle Eastern, the youngest people in the line that happened to be black and Middle Eastern. That's undeniable if you just looked in the line.
Well, it was crazy, dude. I was talking to this girl from Saudi Arabia, and she was telling me some stories because she's traveled all over the place. And she got detained in Mexico for 3 hours for no reason, basically because she was Saudi.
And also, I've noticed that Europe, I can't speak for Mexico, but Europe seems to be, European airports, especially those big ones, Heathrow, any of the big ones in Europe, they seem to be less concerned with sort of the blatant profiling.
Right.
I feel like in the U.S., for better or worse, they try to pretend that they're not just profiling you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, at least this was also, I haven't experienced this in years, probably since Austria and back. I experienced it a lot when I lived in Germany, not personally, but you could see it. And then I haven't really, but I still feel like back then, in Europe, they were a lot less concerned with sort of the imagery of just pulling out all the Middle Eastern looking people.
Right.
And they were just like, yeah, you look like you could be it seemed like they were a lot more okay with just being like, yeah, well, you look like you could do it, so we're going to pull you out. When in the U.S., I feel like they're even though that's exactly what they think, they're a little bit more tactful with it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't experience that firsthand.
The funny thing too, though, Jared, is crime statistics, I think, also show just that we live in such a double standard society in the U.S.
Also, crime statistics show that TSA doesn't do anything, just to be clear.
Also true. Also
protecting against any sort of terrorism of any sort.
Yeah, they fail those tests all the time, don't they? I thought I read some report.
There was the dude in Detroit that had the bomb in his shoe, and his bomb is the one that is what messed up. Right. And so there are a number of examples of people getting through with stuff. So I think it's been proven that the TSA is not what's actually preventing these things, really.
Right, for sure. Yeah, but we do live in a double standard society, without a doubt. Regardless of regardless of who you are, there's going to be some sort of double standard that either works for you or works against you.
What do you think What do you think? Oh, here's a fun game. Let's go back and forth. Well, let's start. Not back and forth. Let's talk personally about ourselves. What do you think are the double standards that are working for you and against you? Let's start with for you personally.
Working for me personally.
We're both men.
Right. Well, I would say...
We're young.
Right. Well,
relatively speaking. In the workforce, I should say.
One thing that's maybe double standard...
You're white.
Yeah. One thing is that, I have never really gone into a store and had people follow me thinking that I would steal something.
Mm-hmm. Right, but we're talking about the broader aspects of why that would be. So that would probably be because you're white, maybe because you're, I don't know, probably not because you're a male. You're sexy. That's one.
Better believe it. Damn right, Jared.
I wanted to see how you respond to that, but I meant to keep a straight face before. I couldn't hold it in. Anyway, so what do you have? I asked you to name them, and I just named them.
I would say also,
Male,
I
white,
think
those are two that we...
I do think that also you and I are both educated. Like having a college degree, I think that certainly can give you some type of earned or not really earned, street cred. Like I've never really had people. Actually, here's a good example, Jared, from my work. I work a lot with like faculty, professors, and I teach them and help them with technology. I never get second guessed. Like, and I think it's because I'm a white dude. Whereas I have female coworkers that they'll suggest the same damn thing that I'll suggest. And then faculty will be like, are you sure? And I don't know if they think because they're a woman, they can't do the job, which is bullshit.
Yeah. The education one is a good one too, because I'd venture to guess the vast, if not all of my majorities, all of my jobs is what I meant to say, have not actually researched whether I have my bachelor's degree, which if any of my employers are listening, I do. But I don't think they've actually done the due diligence.
Called up Albie and back.
Exactly.
So did
Jared
Mr.
Miner,
Jared
has he come through here?
Exactly.
I don't think that's happened. What was his GPA? Because he said it was this. I don't think that's ever happened. But I think if you just put it on there, that fulfills some sort of expectation, meaning, oh, this person is smarter. This person is smart enough to do this office job versus someone that hasn't gone to college. Whereas, like, am I, though? And also, how do you even know that I did go to college?
Don't put your GPA on a resume. I just think that's stupid.
I stopped doing that after I did it for my first job. After my first job, I stopped.
Yep.
It makes sense. It made sense for me, my first job, if I didn't really have a lot of previous experience. But once I have real experience, the GPA is the least important thing that you could bring to the table.
Sure.
Or the least impressive thing, I should say, that you could bring to the table. It's like, what have you done at these 4 companies you worked at in the past?
So here's one, Jared, that I think works for us and sometimes also against us, depending on the situation. Our age. There are certain times when...
For sure.
Yep, because there have been plenty of times where, especially once again with a work example, when I help faculty with anything tech related, they automatically usually buy into it because I'm usually younger than most of the people I work with.
Yeah.
But when I try to give them some advice or some suggestions about their teaching, approaches or their methodology or whatever.
How long have you been doing this?
Exactly.
I've been doing this for 25 years.
I've been teaching longer than you've been live. I don't know why they're Southern all of a sudden, but yeah.
Whenever someone says something ignorant, they seem to somehow transform into a Southern person.
That's true. That's a double standard right there, Jared.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't have that one. I'm close, so close, and I dodged it. But that could have been one of mine.
Right.
My positive ones: male, education. All the ones you said I go with me. Not the white one, obviously, but I would also say, where you were like your financial standings in society. Yeah. Is a big one.
You're a big man with a house, so for sure.
Yeah, so like the double standards, but yeah, that's a perfect example because it's like the double standards of like, it's not even of how quote unquote wealthy or rich you are, but it's like the double standard mostly comes from that perception of wealth.
Oh, for sure.
I think in the U.S. specifically. In the U.S. specifically, especially for people that are around our age, living where we do, this is not a global thing. I shouldn't say the U.S. This is something more for, many parts of the U.S., but not everywhere, is the idea of owning a house for sure. And owning stuff, owning a car, owning a house.
Right.
Is sort of where we live in Michigan, where those things are attainable. It might be different if you live in New York or San Francisco. Right. But the idea of being our age and owning a car and owning a house is almost kind of like that can be sort of like considered like an entry level of like being
having
like
your shit together, quote unquote.
Thank you. That's exactly the term I was looking for. Yeah,
I figured.
And it's like a double
Jared,
standard.
We can finish
of like,
our own sandwiches.
I was gonna say paninis, but sure, it's more of a double standard of
Got the panini press at my place. Come on by.
You do?
I do.
Shit.
Yeah.
That would, I don't have the space for it in my place, but that would be one of those additions that you almost
Bro,
like my
it's
air
like
fryer.
that big.
But
It's like the size
it's
of
almost
a
kind of like my
toaster.
air fryer. One of those like additions
Right.
where you use it like a few times. You're like, oh, I'm glad I got this. But it's like after like 6 months, it does not get used anywhere close enough
Right.
to justify the counter space it's taking up.
Sure. Now let's get back to double standards, Jared. I want to ask you. Sorry, that's my fault. I
You
want
want
to
to talk
ask
about
you
counter
though.
space?
Do you think glasses for you is that work for you or against you? You think,
I
or
think
just doesn't matter?
I don't know. I think we're sort of in a post. I think maybe when I was younger, it might have like lent itself to like people perceiving me to be smarter than I am.
Right.
You know what? Actually, one that I could actually, I'm gonna forget that the glasses one because I can't really think of any solid. A big one for me. You brought. Speaking of having Southern family, my accent.
Oh yeah.
I feel like there was a big
Yeah.
perception on me being smarter than I am to my Southern family because of my accent.
Okay.
And like, yeah, because I constantly got like the "you speak proper" kind of thing, and it's like, and I think it led to this sort of perception of like me trying to give off like this idea of being smart or something. Whereas like I feel like how do I portray to you as a 11-year-old or 10-year-old that I have no control over my accent, and
Right.
and much like your accent makes you sound like a dumbass. My see, if I had that sort of awareness, I would put them down by also sorts. I would definitely.
You
put
just
them
have
down.
to pretend they're me, Jared, and you'll have no problem putting them down.
Much like your Southern accent makes you sound like an inbred idiot. My
God
northern,
damn, we're lucky nobody listens to this because our ass would get canceled.
my northern
so
accent. Well, the only reason I feel comfortable saying that is because if you let me finish my point.
Okay.
Just
go for
because
it,
your Southern accent makes you sound like an inbred idiot doesn't mean that because I have this sort of Midwestern, or I don't even know what accent I have, just because I have this different accent doesn't mean that I'm automatically smart. I'm most likely dumber than you with this accent. Don't let this accent fool you. You
Right.
have it almost makes me feel like, much like black people can fall into racism and white supremacy just as easily as a white person can. We're all trained sort of the same concepts. In the same way where it's like, I feel like my Southern family were sort of, some of them, not all of them. I'm thinking of like the same 4 cousins, just to be clear. Like, I feel like they fell into this idea that because I have this accent, I'm smart, you know?
Right.
Where it's like, you're falling into the double standards too, to your own detriment. You're assuming that I'm somehow smarter than you because I enunciate my words.
Can
Where
I
it's
add
like, I'm
another
saying the
layer
same
to this,
words
Jared?
of you. You sound cooler when you say them with your Southern accent.
Right, for sure. I love Southern accents as well.
Your accent sounds cooler than mine.
Let me add another layer to this, though, too, Jared. I think there's a lot of double standards for like bilingualism, trilingualism, especially depending on your background, right? Like if you come from like a wealthy family, then like it's like, oh, well, Timmy over here can speak
I'll say
3
this.
languages fluently. Yeah.
When I lived in Germany, I feel like I can say this almost close to unequivocally. Close. The more languages that person spoke in my middle school / high school, the more likely they were to be one of the smarter kids. I'm thinking of 3 specific people immediately, and I'm sure I can think of more that were like full on polyglot, like 4 or 5 languages. By far the
Right.
smartest people I knew at that school.
Sure. But
Consistently.
maybe you just thought that because they spoke so many languages. I don't know. And they could just have been brilliant people,
I think
too.
the grades proved it.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But like here's an example though. Like if you're a European and you speak 5 languages, you might be viewed as hyper intelligent, right? Whereas I had a coworker from Ghana and he spoke like 6 or 7 different languages. And super smart guy, but like I think a lot of people, and he was studying to be a pharmacist. I think a lot of people when they saw him, they would also, probably be a little bit racist here, and they would assume because he was black, he wasn't intelligent and he wasn't qualified to be a pharmacist. And yet this guy could, tell you about your prescription drug in like 5 or 6 different languages.
Yeah. But the mind is a powerful thing, especially if you think you're in a position of power over someone. It's a very powerful thing. I've read some of those slavery books that I've read, and the hoops people would jump through to convince themselves that they were superior to black people, that white people were superior to black people. Whereas, like, It's like when you play like games on the playground in elementary school, and you know the classic like new rule, where it's like like once you start losing, it's like immediately a new rule. So it's like that sort of elementary school playground mentality where kids do that is a very real part of, I feel like, the human psyche, and and so like people can certainly convince themselves of superiority in the midst of all facts telling them otherwise, kind of like the vaccine, for example.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there are any other either
Chad, just
pro
so you
or
know,
against
you don't
this.
have you don't have to force this episode to go as long as possible.
Oh, I want this to be like a 5-hour
Keep
long
thinking.
ordeal.
Go ahead,
Jared.
keep thinking. Well, all right.
Perfect. No, I don't have anything else. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting though that, you know, we live in such a world with double standards. I will say this, Jared. It seems like they aren't really talked about enough. I don't know if that's because, you know, I don't know what we can do about them. But it's pretty crazy, man. Just, you know, all the different things out there that depending on your appearance, your gender, your race, your religion, you know, there's all these different double standards.
I mean, there are obviously like incremental things that a person can do about them, but in the grand scheme of things, that's like saying, how are we going to get rid of sexism or racism?
Right. Yeah. Well, at least we're starting the conversation, Jared. So baby steps there.
No.
No? All right. Well,
No.
Anyways, try to end this one on a positive note. Let us know what some of your double standards are, folks, at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on YouTube and Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. And please slide into those DMs on Twitter, Untranslatable1, the number 1. And also 5-star reviews on iTunes. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shusha, and dos vidania.